Hello, visionaries. Here we are with yet another amazing interview for the series that we've been on. And I hope that you've been turning into the whole series because it has been good. It's been juicy. It's been deep. It's been real. And the women have been showing up, sharing so vulnerably about their own journey with entrepreneurship and what it really takes to scale a business into the multi-six, multi-seven, and just what kind of leadership it takes to be part of that bigger vision and stepping into who we really need to become to hold the bigger vision. So it's been really inspiring. I hope you've been taking notes and been tuning in and learning a lot. I'd love to hear from you. And so today I'm here with Angela Hryniuk. Hryniuk. Say it again. Hryniuk. Oh my God, we even practiced beforehand, but this is what I say. You know, I'm English is my third language, and somehow with the vowels, for some reason, 30 plus years still in the US, I still can't get it right. But Angela is an amazing spiritual wealth expert, and she's been working with some of the world's biggest spiritual leaders, Olympians, masters of all kinds, and have so much wealth of knowledge behind her. And I'm super excited to be sitting down and feel honored to have this moment of going deep with you. So thank you so much for saying yes.
Well, thank you for the invitation. I'm excited too. I'm excited too.
Yeah, it's awesome. And so I like to kick it off just with big question, which is, tell us a little bit about yourself and the journey that you have been on to get to the business that you have now.
Oh, it's a long, windy road, hey? I've been in business for myself since I was 20 years old. So it's been, I'm going to show my age, but that's like 40 years. And it morphed over time. Okay. So where do you begin with this kind of story?
I understand. 40 years. Synopsis.
Exactly. Let's just talk about the turning points, maybe. So like in the early days, I was a writer, I was an editor, I worked in the publishing industry. And part of my story is all of the personal stuff that comes with it. So I was drinking. I was an alcoholic. I am an alcoholic, a sober alcoholic. And so my writing took me so far, and so did my drinking. And in my 30s, that was one of the first big pivot points. So I sobered up, and that's when I kind of got in touch with my spirituality, and I went into therapy. And, I think I've always been unemployable. Like, I need to be my own boss. There's just quality of leadership within me that's been there from day one. And I come from abuse. So I think that it was always about, I'm the boss over this body. I'm the boss over me. Okay, so I had bad things happen to me early on, but it's not going to happen again, right? I had to uncover and discover all kinds of my beliefs and patternings, and especially around money. So in my 30s, I opened up a business around spirituality, and I was doing one-on-one counseling. And fast forward, then I moved to Australia, and I should also say that when I sobered up, I went to work for my accountant. He had given me the opportunity, and he was my accountant early in the day. And he said, you've got this amazing mind, Angela, where you can write poetry and, you have all that creative side, but you also can work with numbers. He said, it's very rare. And if you ever need a job, you can come work with me. And I'm like, Gary, I'm a poet. I'm not going to come work for you. Right. But, bite your lip, your tongue. There I was needing a job. And again, it's like on my terms. Gary, this is what I need. He was very compliant. He said, fine, good. Yep, we'll do it. So I spent 18 years as an accountant as well. So I learned the laws of prosperity and money from a very matrix point of view. Then when I moved to Australia, I said, I'm not bringing that business with me. I'm going to fully be in my spirit, my transformational energy, and I'm leaving that business behind, and I sold it eventually. And so from 2006 forward, I haven't looked back. So that's been sort of, from that point for the last 15, 18 years, that's been the biggest arc for me. All of it's been huge transformation. But it's been when I've been in Australia that I have worked with coaches and mentors, both in Canada, the US, and Australia, to elevate me, to take me to my next level in business. I would say in my, 40s, I had a lot of spiritual mentorship of the international kind, where I was working with the United Nations, where I was working with the Dalai Lama, Bishop Desmond Tutu. All those luminaries came in I'd had about 10 years of sobriety maybe at that point, and the goodies started to come. And I was an organizer, and I was a leader in Vancouver, very, very high profile at that point as a Buddhist. And so I was being called upon a lot. And, that couple that with my sobriety. So I come at my modality now, because I've created a modality, and I come at my business now from a really different point of view than I did, say, in my 20s. Suffice to say. But it's been a long road, and, lots of ups, lots of downs, and a lot of fruit, So.
Yeah, beautiful. Really beautiful. Yeah, it's interesting because I've been doing my fourth interview today, and I would say every single one, the women I talked to today, from past trauma, some of them have lived in cars, been homeless, abuse in the past, and me too. And I think there is, we were talking about it today, about this level of resilience and self-preservation. And I also believe heightened awareness that becomes from a survival of growing through those kind of abusive places in the early years, that really makes us resilient as entrepreneurs in creating our own environment. And maybe it is that we don't have a lot else to fall back on.
I thought, oh man, I just need a job. And then I just thought, I couldn't do a job. I just couldn't.
I know. Yeah. And so what do you feel like has been one of the steepest learning curves for you on your own entrepreneurial journey?
I would say that when I moved from a me to we, a me enterprise, where I was a solo entrepreneur, to the we of, I can't do it alone. I don't want to do it alone. I need a team. I need support. I need more hands and brains than just me alone. I would say that was the biggest, okay, so I created that, and then holding that container, holding that energy with integrity, with love, with discipline, with, all, for me, the spiritual principles that are much higher than sort of the laws of, you got to be nice to people, higher levels of value, and holding that on a daily basis and knowing ultimately I was responsible for any errors. Mm-hmm. And I made my team know, they goofed over here, and it might have been a really bad goof. So I would have to spin it back and find out, where did I slip up in all of this? Okay, I didn't give her enough information. I didn't give her enough time. I didn't empower her enough. Whatever it was, it always came back to me, and I accepted that responsibility. I mean, that doesn't mean they had no responsibility, but that's been the biggest learning curve, I would say. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's been mine too. Like, team for me has been the hardest piece. And I had in my early years, I was a horrible boss. I was like, I had the big revolving door of people coming in and out of my business, and just not knowing how to be a leader. And, I had all the excuses. I love, like, you seem, when you went there, had this unwavering understanding that ultimately the fish rot from the head down, I say, like, us as leaders are really holding the space and creating the environment where our team can be successful. But I definitely didn't have that awareness. Nobody in my sphere and community were teaching anything about how to lead and how to be, how to have a team. And we were just supposed to add team members in and somehow figure it out. And like I said, I was a horrible boss for many, many of the years in my learning curve. And I'm very apologetic, but I love this piece about understanding that even the smallest mistake or the big mistakes that happen in your business that ultimately come back to you. How did you come to that conclusion? Do you feel like that's from your spiritual background, or did somebody tell you that that's what it was, or?
Well, I think it came from my recovery work, in 12-step recovery work, because there's steps, right? We got the 12 steps, and 6 and 7 are all about character defects. And, then we make amends to people who we have harmed. And then step 10 is, when we were wrong, we promptly admitted it. And where do we take responsibility? So, I'm 26 years sober. So that was instilled very early on, very, very early on. That doesn't mean, though, that there weren't great big goofs and Like I'm thinking of one in particular, and if you can believe it, I'm embarrassed to say it, but I will, because I had one manager of my business, and I let her basically take the reins. I mean, she was a CEO, she was management. She lost me 60 counts and not following through on, but I wasn't on top of it. I wasn't on top of her to be on top of the payments. Mm-hmm. And when I found out, like, I mean, I could rail and scream and, you know, all of that. And it was like, and you know, I would give away my power. I trust too much, trust too much in their qualities or their abilities to, you know, do their jobs, because I was always like, I really just want to go meditate and write and you know, and do the yummy stuff and teach. And, you know, those kind of hard knocks really woke me up, right? Yeah. Like really, they were owies. They were big owies.
Yeah. And I see this so much with my clients, my leaders who are in the multi-6, multi-7. There's this moment where they found somebody that I feel is maybe capable of taking it all off their plate. Mm-hmm. And there's this moment of just complete joy, right? Like, oh my God, I never have to deal with this again. Let me give you all of it and let me go and do what I'm actually here to do, right? And also we talk about this whole idea of us being in our zone of genius, like it's like the holy grail of entrepreneurship, right? So we all kind of climbing in that general direction. But you're so right, you know. And so I find that a lot of leaders either have the gas pedal all the way down, micromanaging, hovering over the team, and disempowering them, or that take the foot completely off the gas pedal and just go off and do what I want to be doing and hope that the team just got it and manages this and take care of the stuff that I don't really want to deal with. And so, you know, it's either one or the other. And it takes a while until we find the balance where we have the foot lightly on. So we have the pulse, we know what speed we're traveling at, and we know where we're going and when there's curves coming up, and we can navigate that journey. But, you know, that's a really fine-tuning process. And you know, all of our interpersonal problems that we have run away with and why we are self-employed in the first place come slamming back at us, but we have a team in front of us.
Exactly. It's like I always say, you know, we recreate our family no matter where we go, right? So the family of origin, whether you're in you're a journalist in a newspaper room, you must have come from a big family that fought a lot, because there's a lot of argument in the journalism room, right? It always recreates itself. So anywhere we go, you know, we've got a team, and you've got a mom and a dad that'll touch your buttons that way, and you got sisters and a brother and all of that kind of stuff. All the personalities will show up. Yeah, and it's for us to grow and learn. It ain't easy though. It's like a lot of owies and apologies, and I mean that was one of the things I've learned in recovery is how to say I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Right? That was not in my vocabulary, right? I was a bit of a bully. I was a bit of a, you know, my way or the highway, and just plow on through, and all of those attributes of resilience, you know, and they only got me so far. When you have a team, I make mistakes. They make mistakes. It's like a give and a take. I get triggered. You get triggered. Okay, we're triggered. It doesn't mean you're bad or I'm bad or whatever. It's like we got to work this out. And I, like, you know, in those days, I'm thinking back in 15, 16 when this was going on, I had a guide. I had I had a financial person who was walking us through, even with him there, you know, even us having team meetings, even with all of that and support and everything. Shit still happened, part of my language, but you know, I still lost that 60 grand and like in the midst of all of that. So yeah, I think for us as leaders, it's all about learning how to lead. You know, what does it mean to lead? What does it mean? And in Buddhism, we have 3 kinds of leaders. So, you know, everybody's got their own style of leadership. It's not always the queen, from my experience. Yeah.
Right. It's not always the queen. I love that. I love that so much. I love it so much because I spend my days, you know, supporting, mentoring many leaders who's making that jump from me to we, and what I call going from doer in the business to becoming the leader of the vision and the team and the community and what that looks like. And it's such a steep learning curve. And I'm laughing because, there is a sense of, yeah, but I'm the owner of the business. I should be able to get away with some of these stuff that I'm getting away with. I'm like, well, not really. Like, you got to have to look at those pieces, take some responsibility for those. Those are parts of empowering your team. And if your team is seeing you, right, we have to walk the talk and lead the way we want them to show up and show the way of how we want it to look like. And it's a next level of responsibility that is, very different from when it's just us or maybe a couple of VAs doing a couple of admin stuff around the business, to having a full-blown team that is looking for us for leadership.
Yeah. And I find that those people who aren't into taking responsibility, they drift off. They want to assume, they want to point the finger, they want to, not assume their blame or like take any responsibility, and they go. That's my experience, right? Yeah. That it's like, that's too hot, man. Like it's this environment is too touchy feely, and it's like, well, okay, you can fly.
Yeah.
Best of luck. It's going to be somewhere else. It's going to follow you wherever you go. So
yeah. But that's the whole thing about having a company culture, right? Like that's the piece that we get to cultivate in our business, is really the guardrails. And when we start realizing that it's not about rules, right? It's not about shaming and blaming people for not doing their job. It's not about, we're not treating them like we're training puppies, right? With reward and punishments. Like that's not the idea, right? But when we start cultivating a company culture and we all start agreeing to certain things of how we operate within this container that actually supports the vision, then the whole team gets on board, and that creates this cohesiveness. And we are working together. And it's not like people are not usually going to fall off the ledges, because there is this container that actually creates the guardrails for them of how we do things. Mm-hmm. And, before I figured out that container is amazing once you put it in place, because then your team member starts holding other team members accountable, and new team members just get folded into what's already there. And it's like creates its own entity. Right. But I didn't know how to cultivate a company culture in the beginning. I had no idea. I didn't even know what that was most of the time, right?
I hear you. And for us, like there's the support part of it, the admin part. And then I have a level of coaches that I have trained into assuming the modality and teaching and all that. So there's a little bit of a hierarchy too, mm-hmm. right? So how do you hold the energies of that? And fascinating, like it's personality, it's, as you say, an ecosystem. What are the rules? What are the guard rules? And in fact, I kept the wisdom coaches apart from the day-to-day operations, mm-hmm. because they were a beast or an entity unto themselves. We have our own ecosystem there that's different from the admin kind of piece, right?
Mm, that's beautiful. Yeah. So during that journey of really stepping into becoming the leader that you needed to become to take your business to the next level, what do you feel like you really learn about yourself? What did it teach you about you?
Well, the one thing that I really got hammered between the eyes with was there was a part of me, and I already alluded to this, is that I just wanted to relinquish my power. I just want, like, you just do it, right? And I didn't want to know. And it repeated itself. And until it, banged me in between the eyes. And it's very subtle, but it was pervasive. And yeah, like I won't say it's my downfall, but it was, there's a part that was still in denial of something. And I wanted to give my power away so that I wouldn't have to fully stand, I guess. I mean, while I'm doing it, I didn't know any of this. Mm-hmm. But on reflection, it really was like this woman, the CEO was like, just let her do that. Or the person who was managing all my events and, all the travel. And it's just like, just let her do it. Let her run with it. And you can do that a little bit. But once, the horse is bolted, so to speak, and I've empowered them to go. I relinquished power. And then they were making mistakes and all kinds of stuff was going down. And I wasn't energetically present. I don't know if I can articulate it very well. That's the biggest learning that I've had, and I will even say that I went on to start a business with two other partners about 3 years ago because I was getting very tired with this great big team, burning out. And so I started a business with two other people, a three-way business. And I was repeating that pattern so big that I was willing to give away 2/3 of my income. And I, you know, I won't go into all the details, but suffice to say, I came to a point where it woke me up one day. It's like, Ange, this pattern is on steroids now. And if you don't like stop giving your power away, you're going to lose 2/3, like your income is out the door. It was just so amazing to me. And so when I halted that and I said, okay, because they were starting to take over the company, they were, you know, I could see they were going to squeeze me out and take the money, you know, with all the best intentions. Mm-hmm. And I just like, I'm the guardian of a modality that was, you know, downloaded to me 20 years ago, and I have been shaping it and teaching it, and I was willing to give away 2/3 of it. So when I woke up to that one, I was like, OMG, and this is, and when I woke up to it, and I won't say turned it around, but all I had to do is have awareness and ownership of it. Mm-hmm. All this energy came back inside of me. So I was spending energy pushing things down, a lot of it, and getting very tired in the process, never realizing that that's what was making me tired.
Yeah. Powerful. So powerful. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I think that's such a powerful piece that I don't think we talk a lot about, the sense that we are, when we are avoiding something or trying to, you know, not look at something, or like you said, pushing it away, that there's the energetics of holding that pattern, right? Is just draining our life force straight out of us. And, you know, that actually taking responsibility and ownership and stepping into our leadership fully actually allows us to become empowered, right? Is that whole disempowered, empowered pattern, but it's so hard to see. I can relate so much because there's been many times in my business what I wish somebody would just come and tell me what the hell I was supposed to be doing. You know, like, what the hell am I supposed to be doing with this? This is a mess. I know I need to go this way, but I don't know how. I'm supposed to be doing all of this. I don't know how I'm going to be able to do more of what I'm already doing. I'm overwhelmed. I'm tapped out. I'm at capacity, you know.
Or I'm having all these feelings that I've never had before. And I don't like, who do you talk to about, you know, the feeling piece in the midst of trying to keep things going. Right. And not knowing what to do with the going part also.
Right. Like it's the compounding effect, right? Yeah. And then the shame and blame and the, you know, not being good enough and all of our upper limit pieces that keep showing up. And, you know, we on the spiral, right? It's not a linear process, and the healing is in this spiral way. And I think, you know, I feel like we've been talking about this some in our interviews, is that trauma to me is how we splinter ourselves. It's really about breaking ourselves apart and compartmentalize ourselves in different pieces. And that healing really comes from us bringing wholeness together, which I think really applies to this, because there is this sense of like, oh, I can't do that part. I'm not very good at it. I hear this so much from entrepreneurs, especially creative, spiritual entrepreneurs, very similar to what Gary told you. You're so good at writing poetry, but you also really understand numbers. Like, this is cool. Like, and I think we are really multifaceted, but part of us told ourselves that, oh, I'm not good at that. So I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to take ownership of it. I'm going to give my power away about these things I'm going to take. And we splinter ourselves off in this process where we're not really able to hold the full container for who we really need to become. And so this process of actually then taking responsibility and stepping back into claiming the pieces and figuring it out, because one thing we can count on, we are going to figure it out.
Or we walk away, because, you know, there was a point when I was going to, you know, walk away and say, I'm done. Mm-hmm. Like I'm 60 years old. I've had a good run, you know, like I've done blah, blah, blah. I could retire. I could just write for the rest of my life. I could, etc. Mm-hmm. And the imperative of evolution came through me, you know, so we can walk away. It's just, I would never have grown to the next level. And this next year has been like, you know, to the moon. Like I am in a whole different stratosphere now. So yeah, we always have choice. There's always choice point.
Yeah. So what was the thing that made you stay?
This modality that I have, that I'm shepherding, and hasn't, like, I had to make peace with it and what did it want out in the world. And this wasn't, here's another pattern that I caught myself in, was that I often would, and this is totally from trauma and totally from family of origin stuff, is I would not nurture that which needed to be nurtured. There would be neglect. There would be, just like how I got mothered. You'll figure it out. You'll figure it out. I don't need to feed you, etc. And so I would do that. I've done that with my writing. I've done that, in different areas, and it was with my staff, etc. And I was going to do it again with this modality. And it was screaming at me, no, like, I want this to be out. I want to be out in the world. I want you to birth me properly. I mean, I've birthed people, I've birthed it, and I've trained coaches. It's a global proposition now. This is not a local thing. This isn't a national thing. I've been in multiple countries teaching it. And it was like, okay, I hear you. Just like you said, I don't know how. I don't know how to go to the next level without getting exhausted and burning out and doing all the marketing the way we did it and, hiring, blah, 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 blah. I don't know how. And I met somebody who said, well, you don't have to do it like that.
No.
And I was like, okay, I'm going to give myself 1 year. I'll give myself 1 year to reinvent, up level, and see what happens in 1 year. And then I'll make a decision. So that was in March of this year. So we're March, April, May, June, July, August, September, November. So 8 months in. I mean, hands down, life has changed, right? Like, hands down, that would have been, I don't want to say blasphemous, that's not the right word, but it would have been criminal. It would have been criminal to the modality if I had folded up my cards and just said that's enough, right? So,
right? But that's it, right? I think the decision point, are you willing to take on the next uncomfortable growth level? I was laughing at myself not that long ago because I was thinking about this whole idea about up-leveling. Because I do believe this year has been pivotal for so many, and it's been a big year for me about up-leveling to my next level of leadership and really been feeling into that and what that's going to look like and leaning into it. And I was laughing at myself because I feel like I had this idea, and not necessarily that I would verbalize it this way, but I thought up-leveling would be a little bit more like somebody plucked me out of my current situation and then lifted me over, miraculously placed me in my new idea of what life should look like. That this is like the power of manifestation. Right? Like,
or a power of fantasy.
I've grown, it's not like I haven't done any personal growth. I mean, it sounds like I live in fantasy land, right? But I realized that, like, I kind of had this idea that this is what up-leveling ought to look like. And instead, to me, it's been more about shadow work and looking at myself and my upper limit problems, like my limits that are getting in the way and how I'm not really owning my leadership, my power, all of these pieces, like you say, in family of origin and these pain points, and really owning them and moving through them and sitting with them in the uncomfortableness of it all. And then, very clumsily and sometimes a little bit gracefully and, a couple of steps forward and a couple of steps backwards, we have made this journey together that's been phenomenal and completely transformational. Right. But I remember, like I said, not that long ago, I was just sitting around like, I didn't expect it to look like this,
Well, I was talking with somebody yesterday about this. And this year I've had 2 major breakthroughs. And like in my world, which is the transformational industry, transforming trauma and working with, coaches and training people, it's like it's inside out. I know this stuff inside out. So when they come for me, it's like, oh, okay, here we are. And it's not fun. And just like you just said, it's not what I expected it to look like. And everybody will go through it. It's just how long it'll last. What part of you is going to get pulled out to get, cleansed and healed and purified? I don't have a clue. Right. And once the work is done, once that passageway goes, you go through it. And I've just come through, I would say, like about 2 weeks ago. And I'm talking about, like, I've got this new inner scaffolding. That's what I'm calling it. That's holding me on the inside. in a way that I've never experienced before. And it comes from, the not knowing and the confusion and the crying and the fear and blah, blah, blah. And here it arrived. Right. And it's just like, and my next project is like, I can do it. I had the vision 10 years ago, but 10 years ago, I couldn't do it. It's like, thank you very much, but you picked the wrong person. Right. And I'm beginning to create a global institute of evolutionary leaders. Right? And handpicking from 12 leaders that I know globally, internationally, to have a think tank from different art, like from the arts, sports, business, the environment, and what was the other one? There's 6 of them. I can't remember all of them right now. But to come together. So like 10 years ago, like, forget it. Now I'm ready. And it takes time. Like, time takes time.
Yeah. Yeah. But what a beautiful, right? Like when we really allow life to have a way with us and allow us to surrender to that journey, the things that comes through us is ultimately more potent and more transformational for the planet, creates more impact than anything we could ever think up. And that actually resisting it is draining.
And also your audience, I think, will get this. And it comes back to, one of your biggest tenets is that I think that we're really versed in our shadow. I think we're really good knowing, how we hurt and what it feels like to suffer. And I think it's our light that we're afraid of. And I mean, that's that old quote, right? It's not the darkness that we fear. It is our light. And as we ascend as leaders and that, go beyond the 1.7% into that 7-figure, it's like, wow. Oh, like I can do this. Oh, I do deserve the goodness. Oh, which is a different place for me anyway, I can only speak for myself, than heading up as a CEO and trying to manage.
Right.
Does that make sense? Like, it's
so much sense.
That next level ain't about management. It ain't about CEO and directorship. It's about, containers, like holding the energy. How much can I contain and hold as the divine works through me? What am I here to do? Not for Angela, but what am I here being asked to do? So, yeah.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. I actually remember when I first started my very first business, I was 29 years old and I had no idea what I was doing. But I remember every single day felt like this was what I was supposed to be doing. And I pretty much just gave my vision and my business over to God. And I said, okay, so just tell me what I'm supposed to do to make this thing happen. Like this is the vision. I know this is the vision. Just tell me, what am I supposed to do today to move this vision forward? And it helped me so much. It freed me up so much to not feel like I was the one making it happen. It allowed me that piece of surrendering, which you were talking about. And in those, like that was the moment where I would literally I would say, okay, God, like universe, I am ready to receive more clients. Like I'm ready to take on more. And my phone would start ringing. Like there was a level of now this is not some crazy woo-woo manifestation, think it and they will come, build and they will come. It's not quite as simple as that. I don't think that it's really like that. I think we need to do both some of the real deep spiritual work and also taking some real action in the material world. But when we focus on the being before we focus on the doing, there's a really rapid alignment that starts to happening and things starts happening so much faster and the having comes so much faster. I think the problem is that most of us are doing the doing first, hoping we get to have a little bit of the having, and then delaying the being until some later time in the future when we finally arrive. Right? So we just have to turn that whole equation around. But there is a level of when we really are in flow, and you all have felt that. Everybody who is listening, everybody here, the difference between pushing and forcing and trying to make something happen and being in the sense of having flow, where things are just kind of coming through with you. You're having the greatest download. You're getting insights. You intuitively know how to make the right moves and the right decisions, and you're following that. You're trusting it. That is a level of flow, and things just starts happening quickly and easily for you. And it doesn't feel like effort, even though you may be putting in 10 hours a day. working on your vision and your mission, it doesn't feel like work. There's a level of flow that happens. Now, we don't live in that flow forever. It's not all we do. It's not who we really are, but knowing the difference and trusting it and finding your way back to that space of flow is ultimately the journey.
Yeah, 100% I agree. 100%. And I also think that, as women entrepreneurs, it's a different journey. Mm-hmm. And we've been following the map and the guidance of the patriarchy. Okay. And a lot of that is shadow. They don't even know that they're caught in the push, and, the burnout and the heart attacks and yada, yada, yada. So we're, in some ways, women entrepreneurs are shifting the whole playing field with our energetics, right? I always say to people, we're coding the internet with our energy. Doesn't matter whether you get clients or not. We are changing the vibration of the internet, right? Which some people aren't even conscious that's what we're doing, right? So we don't have to push. The internet is there. The energy is there. The wavelength, the bandwidth, or whatever. It's infinite. We just have to tap in a correct way, right? So, I'm still on my growth curve. I still like shake my head, and the quotient between doing and being, like on a daily basis, it's going to rock one way or another. And there I am in the swimming pool, right? And I'm swimming and I'm kind of going, oh my God, this is work. Like I'm swimming, enjoying myself. And this is part of my work, right? Like this, if you want to call it doing, this is the doing, I'm reading a book for enjoyment. I'm working at my enjoyment. It's at this level, that's the new work.
It's so true. I noticed this when I would step away from my business. So I used to work like crazy hours in my old business. A typical, patriarchy way of running a business, push, struggle. But I would step away from my business and I will go on vacation because I'm from Europe. So I'm very good at being on and off. So I had some idea of taking vacations, and I would take unplugged vacations, and we would be hanging out in Hawaii for the week. And I would be on the beach, and all of a sudden, like, I would have this complete download about a problem I've been having in my business. I haven't even been thinking about business, but all of a sudden in that moment, I had a full download of this problem that I'd been hitting my head against for the last 6 months trying to solve, and I couldn't figure it out. And then all of a sudden, being completely unplugged, hanging out, being in the flow of the ocean, swimming with the turtles, snorkeling, being in Hawaii Beach, enjoying myself with the love of my life, and just being in that bliss state, I had these amazing downloads. And so when I recreated this business, I very intentionally started building it on 3-day work weeks, because I knew that if I was truly going to be on a trajectory of where I wanted to go, that I was going to need a tremendous amount of spaciousness to have unplugged time and spaciousness to actually tap into my intuition and my strategic thinking on the next level. Yeah. That filling every waking day and every working day with stuff to get done was actually going to shut me down and not make me as resourceful and as impactful as I could be as a leader and a business owner.
Well, and when you're in the hustle piece in early entrepreneurship, saying something like that would just cause panic. Like it could even trigger somebody into, oh my God, like I can't even imagine in the middle of the day reading a book. Like, oh my God, like it's I've got to, because the nervous system has been pre-programmed through trauma, right? So it's like, you got to regulate your nervous system. Yeah. Go back to, go have a bath, go swimming, go be with the turtles. That's going to regulate your nervous system, calm you down, bring you back into your heart, then come back. Yeah. Right?
It's so true. I literally remember one time I was at a women's retreat, like spiritual women's retreat. And we have just arrived. And my team member at the time, my operations manager sent me had a big breakdown in the business and big upheaval. And I remember being in tears, telling the leader I had to leave right then. I had to go back to work. I couldn't be there. And, and I was totally in believing that there was no way that I could take 4 days away from my business at that moment in time because everything was falling apart. I took 4 days away. I came back and we sorted that out in like under an hour. No big deal. And I was like, again, probably in a way better state, right? Because I'd be now unplugging. And God bless the lady who talked me off my ledge, in my, like, cry crocodile tears, freak out mode, right? And so, just those moments of when we realize that we don't have to push and we don't have to force. And there are different ways of really plugging into our genius that doesn't require so much of the pushing. I used to have a sign in my office that says, "Dear Madeline, I don't need your help today. Love God."
There you go. Yeah.
Because there was this sense for me that I was like, in charge, of having to run it all. And it was all on my shoulders. And I felt so overwhelmed and alone and stressed out because it was all on my shoulders to make it happen. And then to realize, okay, maybe it's like I got a little help.
Well, I mean, we have a saying in we have a saying in recovery that is, there's a God and it's not you, right? So stop pretending that's you. And I always say to my clients, like, write a list, tear it in half, give one half to God. Like, forget half of it. You've got half. The divine is your employer. Your clients are not your employer. The banks aren't your employer. All of that. It's like, yeah, it's between you and that divine self. And we don't have anybody in the mainstream, in the matrix, saying those messages. Like, it's just not there yet. Mm-hmm. We're watching the crumbling of all the matrix, great, and we're watching the new arrive. But we're at the crossroads, man. Like, there's the tides are going out and in right now. And a podcast like this, it's like old school, new school. What do we want? Where did we come from? In my lifetime, I mean, in your lifetime, our lifetime, what? And I feel old saying this, but like what we've seen in terms of manifestation, in terms of, like people used to say, like, what do you do on those meditation retreats? I've got, one of my things is I got 40,000 hours of meditation, right? Wow. So like that is a few years of sitting on my butt, meditating. Yeah. It's like, and in the early days, like in the 80s, people were like, are you a bitch? Like, what do you do there? All that kind of thing. And meditation. Whereas now, like, think about the trajectory of how the whole planet has changed with yoga, with meditation, with the East meets West, all of it. Mm-hmm. And we're at the cusp. I still feel like I'm at the cusp, the beginning of the next wave, right?
Big time.
Yeah.
Big time. Yeah. And so where can people go and find more about the amazing work that you do in the world and connect with you?
Well, I've got a website, obviously, and they can go to AngelaHryniuk.com, and I'll spell my last name because people always, there's a lot. It's a Ukrainian last name. And that was something when I was growing up, oh, you're Russian. It's like, no, you're Ukrainian. So I'll spell my name. It's HRYNIK.com. There you'll find out all my different programs. There's some free downloads. There's some of my programs up there. The best place to reach me is Facebook. Okay, so I have a Facebook page. I have a Facebook profile. I'm on TikTok. I'm on Instagram. So I've got videos everywhere. I've got a very active YouTube channel. Mm-hmm. And all my meditations are there. I've got 5 CDs of meditations. So all of them are up there, Spotify, pretty much any of the platforms that you can think of, except for the new ones, like the ones that the young kids are on. I don't like Chatter or something like that. Yeah, exactly.
But yes, that's beautiful. Yeah. And it's just,
and if anybody wants to get like certified, this is my biggest message right now. So those who are coaches that are moving through and probably listening to your program are people who have got something going on and they want their next level. And I want to meet them. That's who I want to meet. Those people who are already established in their business, are already leaders. They also want new modalities to help their clients work in their unconscious. Because a lot of what we've been talking about is bringing the unconscious into consciousness, bringing that through and going to the next level of their business. Mm-hmm. So I'm on the lookout for wisdom coaches because we have a great big trial next year. We're doing another scientific trial. So we need 108 participants next year. And we need wisdom coaches to support the 108 participants. And because we've had scientific results that this modality within a 6-week period makes 12 weeks, very significant change. In 24 weeks, like, crazy great change. So
Wow.
I really, really want to, and this is the modality that, not that I was going to kill, but that I kind of was going to put to bed.
Well, I'm glad. I'm glad we managed to rope you back in, I'm glad the universe had more work for you to do. I'm very grateful for that, and so grateful for this time with you, Angela. Thank you so much.
It's been
For just
wonderful, wonderful conversation, wonderful questions, wonderful vibe, Yeah, filled with love. I feel with love.
Yeah, so much fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.